What's up everyone, Fritz here with Sneakerhead Ambition, and today I'm going to be doing my first bot tutorial, and that's going to be on Wrath AIO. This is definitely one of the top bots. It's been doing really well, especially as of late and over the summer, and it's a bot that I've been using for over a year now and have had a lot of success with, so I'll just be doing a general overview today. So I'm not going to be getting into too many specifics on what to do on, say, let's Shopify, Yeezy Supply, foot sites. I am going to go over those specific drops in videos in the upcoming weeks. Like I said, today is just going to be a general overview. So I'll go over the basic categories to set up and just some of the general mistakes that people make that may lead to their tasks not starting, not picking up, and just in general not working. So we'll get into that overview now. All right, so starting out today, we're going to be discussing Wrath, as we've just mentioned, and obviously I'm sure you are aware. I've just uploaded this on a fresh copy onto a new computer or server. So this is what the bot should look like when you get it. To start off, I'm just going to run down which categories these are over here and what they all kind of are in just a general overview. And then I will circle back and go in more detail back the way up. Alright, so here we just have our overall dashboard, right? All you're doing here, right, is just getting an idea of what you've spent, how many orders have failed, what you're looking at per month. So this is just a nice little overview up top. Here we have task groups, right? So again, I'll go over this. So this is where you're actually going to see the tasks that you make and run the bot from. Here we have profile groupings and your profiles. So this is where you're going to put your credit cards, your credit card information. You're going to be able to group them specifically. Here we have your proxies. So this is where you are going to enter your proxies, and then you're going to save them in your lists over here. Here we have accounts. So again, there are some sites that if you're going to bot require an account, so you'll put them in here. There'll be a list over here. We have shipping rate, so sometimes you can input a shipping rate to expedite the checkout process. We have our just general information again, so some more of the settings. We'll get into that in more detail in a second. We have our CAPTCHA Gmail harvester section here. And finally, we've got our updates. So right there you would see if there's needed any updates. I just downloaded it, so it should be good to go. And you can always check to see that you're on the correct iteration or version. So that's just a quick rundown of everything on the side here. And like I said, now I will head back up in the opposite direction. Alright, so first up we have at the bottom here, we have our harvesters. So you need to be aware, and I'll do videos in the future of how to run specifically for specific sites, but again, this is just a more general overview of Wrath, the bot. So this is where you would input your Gmail. So let's say that you've got a personal Gmail, let's say you're starting out and you want to run that. What you would do is you'd pick the site you're going to run for, so you'd click here, alright, and then you'd pick the type. So depending on the type of drop, it could be Shopify, Supreme, Yeezy Supply, Data Dome, Finish Line, right? And these all have different subsections, right? A lot of them got default. Right, this is a couple different. But depending on the site you're running, you're going to need to set this to a certain type of solver. Now let's say that let's do Yeezy Supply, that's easy. Okay, I select default. If I'm running just one, right, you don't really need a proxy, but let's say that I run 3, right? You can click add harvester, add as many as you want, but if you're going to run those, you would need to have a proxy so that the company or the site doesn't see all this traffic from one IP address. So let's say that I put in, and this is not a real proxy, but let's say I put that in there. The big thing with Wrath, and again, this isn't that big of a deal, but you need to remember this or it can turn into a big deal. You need to hit save, right? If you don't hit save, it's not going to stick, or whatever you put in there isn't gonna save. So just make sure that you click the save button, all right? And then from there, you would click on YouTube here to actually log in. Right, I'm not going to go through that. You can do that on your own. And just a video here would pop up and you can watch YouTube. It'll make it look more of a person, and you would leave that up until right before drop. And then finally this little symbol right here, right, would actually launch the solver, not the YouTube video, right? So if I click this, the YouTube video disappears, my solver comes up, ready to solve CAPTCHAs. So again, that is just a general overview of this section and how you would go about putting in your Gmails, CAPTCHA harvesters, all of that information based on the drop. Key point, remember to save this. Next up, we have a fairly quick section. It's going to be shipping rates. Okay, so on some sites, there's going to be an option to input a shipping rate here. And that is, again, just going to speed up and accelerate the checkout process because it's not going to have to actually search for the shipping rate based on the shoe. So again, if this is mostly going to be a Shopify thing, but if I wanted to do this, right, let's say I do this and let's say I want to do undefeated, right? That's a popular site. I'd select a profile that I have not made yet. And what I would do is I would go to the link or go to the site for the shoe I'm trying to get. Even if it hasn't dropped yet, all it needs to do is have a price. You're going to copy and paste that, and you're going to put it right here. Now, if you can't get to the product page and the shoe costs, or let's say you're going to try to get a Yeezy tomorrow on Undefeated and the shoe costs $220. You could also find a pair of like Ultra Boosts or whatever, any shoe that's going to be $220. You can put that link in here because it's going to be the same shipping rate. So that's one way you could do it. Then you'd click fetch and it would assign a profile to that. Now, if you were in a good cook group, they might just already have shipping rates for you. So you could ask your cook group, they might have a link or a channel in there, and then you just copy and paste that there, and it's very simple. All right, but again, this is mostly going to be for Shopify. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this. It's not necessarily going to be needed to be done for every site, but it is a very good idea on Shopify to just give you that extra edge. And again, when you're coming down to milliseconds, that can be very helpful. So that's something that you could do in this category here for any of the sites that you want. All right, now we've got a good amount going on this settings page, so I'll go over it all one by one. Up top here, we've got some fairly important buttons, right? We've got import, export. So a big thing that you can do is you can import or export your entire setup. So when you're starting off, this might not be as big of a deal because you don't have as many profiles, you don't have as many tasks, right? You don't have as many proxies, shipping rates, all of that, right? If I were to hit export all, everything that I have in this would export, and then I could just import it if I wanted to move my bot to another server. So as you progress in this space, just keep that in mind. It can really expedite the process and save you a lot of time when you start to get larger setups and you are using multiple servers or multiple bots. It is a very helpful feature. Sorry for those dings. If you hit or do anything here, right, you need to remember to save it. This is a key theme here with Wrath, right, that you need to save what you do. If you don't do that, it's not going to register and it's not going to work. So just remember to do that. All right, you can open logs, open PayPal, renew, if you own it, renew it here, and then deactivate. Deactivate is going to deactivate the bot from your computer or server, and it's going to allow you to move it to another computer or server after that. Over here we have webhooks, right? So if you would like to see your success, I would highly recommend doing this. You're going to need to create a channel and a webhook in your Discord. I will go over how to do that in a different video. But essentially, all you're going to do is input the link here. You're going to hit test. And if you did it correctly, a notification will pop up. Very straightforward. No notification pops up, not the right link. Very, very simple. Auto clip CAPTCHA, just have that checked, and then if you want your checkout sign to be fancy because you're fancy, go ahead, go for it, But and then finally a big one is you're going to be your auto solve. So if you are running a bunch of tasks for, let's say, Yeezy Supply, foot sites, I would personally recommend at this point in time, this is late August 2021, I would recommend opening the harvesters up that we went over in the category before. But if you want to use auto solve, you would need to go to auto solve's dashboard. I will go over that I will go over this specifically in a separate video. But if you already know what you're doing with that, you would need to get the key from there and the access token, and then you need to hit enable. All of this is great, but if you don't hit save, it's not going to be there and it's not going to stick. So again, please remember when you're setting up to save what you're doing so that it works correctly. All right, so here we have our proxy entry or our proxy tab. This is going to be where you input all of your proxies, either whatever they are, IP auth or not, or user pass. Either one, you're going to input them here. You're going to be doing the authorization on the proxy dashboard, right? So whatever proxies the company gives you, this is where you're going to paste them, right? So let's say that I've got Leaf, and you know, I'm not going to type in any actual proxies, but if I hit save, I've got one. So again, same thing, right? You can either, and you can ping them, you can try to test them. I don't do my testing in the bot, but you would click edit, and again, I could add, right? Just again, and it lets you save. So if you just wanted to make your lists, and I do this, right? I'll make the categories over here. I'll make them the night before, and just fill them in with this nonsense, right? Just fill them in with just that gibberish. And that way I can set everything up the night before, and the day of, I can just come in and paste my proxies and my ISP lists, right? Because I try to generate them closer to the drop. So this lets me do that. I do like that. Some bots make you put an actual proxy in. I mean, you can just put one in and it'll be fine, but that's something I like. So just make sure you're saving them under the correct title, and make sure you're not duplicating them over here so that when you're setting up, it's obvious which proxies you are using. All right, now we are to the account section. So again, some of the sites that you're going to run into are going to have a account required to slow down botters and just in general to make it a little more difficult. If you're serious about it, it's really not that big of a deal because you can either create them manually, if you have AYCD or Osiris or another tool that generates accounts, that makes it really easy. So it isn't that big of a hurdle, but it's something to be aware of. The big two sites are going to be Undefeated and Concepts, right? Those are in the US at least. Those are definitely going to require accounts. So how you would do this is, right, you need to pay attention to format, user, and password, right? So let's say I'm sneakerboy@gmail.com. All right, now I'd put my dots, and then I would put in the password. Okay, that's one. So I could create this and say Undefeated accounts. All right, once I click save, it's going to pop up over here and it tells me how many I have. Now, if I want to edit this, I'd come over here, I'd edit it, and I could maybe add maybe more. Maybe I'm Alright, again, I'd need the password. And then down here, I could either save it, but I would like to save it, right, as another. So just keep in mind that you need to make sure you're saving things under the right name. Sometimes if you save over something, it'll confuse things over here. So just make sure you've got the right names on the right lists. Alright, but again, and also if you don't put it in that format, it's not going to work. So as always, and in every category, make sure you're saving what you're doing and putting it in the right format. So this is where you would put in those accounts. All right, so here's where you're going to be inputting your profile groups, right? So profile group, credit card, call it what you want to call it, but this is where you're going to be entering that information. Now, a big one here and a big time saver if you are a seasoned botter or you've got a lot of profiles is going to be import export. Right, you obviously want to save time and import your profiles if you have hundreds or thousands. I've got a couple thousand. You're going to want, from there, you're going to want to import those lists. You might use AYCD, Kylan, Kodai Essentials, whatever you use. I'll make a video on those platforms as well. But whatever you use to store all your profiles, that you would export it from that program and you would import it onto your list here. Now, if I click import, what's going to happen is whatever I imported, whatever group is going to pop up over here, and it would pop up not as profile group one, but imported profiles. All right, now, after that happens, let's say I imported 100, right? It would say imported profiles. I could change that. So let's say that they were Yeezy Supply profiles, right? So I would do this. And I would save the category. Okay, now, if I do import again, it's not going to import them into this category. It's going to import them over here, and it will say imported profiles. Then you can change the name again. So again, you can make your list over here. Or if I'm new and I only got a couple, I could go to here, and this is where I'd actually create it. So this adds profile groups, right? You could have Yeezy Supply, Foot Locker, Champs, Undefeated, Shoe Palace, right? You can have all of your profiles over here. You could have your business cards, hard cards, whatever the case may be. This is where you would actually input, right? So let me just do this real quick. Let me just keep this down, right? We got good old Florida. Use for billing. So after, you know, I mean, you would have to do this for all your cards. So that would be 5 digits. So right, just you do that. Oops. All right, you do that and you get your profile. Okay, so you could have 100 here, right? I got a couple hundred Yeezys. I think I got 400 Yeezy cards, right? So this will sort them out. This is going to help you organize them. So again, make sure you keep these nice and clean over here. It really does make making your tasks and making large groupings a lot easier. So you don't have to filter through thousands of profiles. You can filter through the 100 or a couple hundred you want per site. And again, once you're done all this, I could hit export, and that would just allow me to input this cleanly into any new bot without having to go and jump through all of these hoops again. All right, here finally, probably the biggest deal, as if you've got everything so far set up correctly, is going to be creating your tasks, right? And just executing the drop is going to take place here. So let's say that I'm going to create a few. So let's say that I'm running for Yeezy Supply. Let's say that I'm running for Yeezy Supply. So yeah, so let's say I've got like Yeezy Supply ISP, Yeezy Supply Resi, and let's say that I'm going for a Foot Locker drop with ISPs. So let's say that I'm running this. All right, this is what I'm going for, and I'm going to need to create tasks. All right, so as always, you just keep clicking, right, and you can rename them. All right, so if I click on this, I would need to go over to here to create the actual task, right? So right there, that creates task, right? Here we've got our delays. So if you want to set your delays, you can go there to the settings, or you can click change delay. Either one gets you there. But here's where you're going to create the task. Now, let's say I said Yeezy Supply. So I'm doing Yeezy Supply, random size, random SKU. Let's say Yeezy Supply cards, profile guy. And again, none of this is real, but if the information were correct, I could then hit create or create and start. If you're mid-drop and you're just trying to rush, create and start is good, but if you're just setting up, just create, right? And that's going to give me one task, okay? Now, let's say that I want 100 total. Okay, so I create that. Here is where you're going to see all of your tasks. I personally, on Wrath, try to keep my task group under 200. It doesn't mean I'm only run 200 tasks, but I'm not going to put more than 200 in a group. And here is again where you're just going to see all the information. If you hit obviously start all of them are going to start. If you want to click a couple, hold down Control and just start clicking, right? And whatever you click, says 11 selected, you could start selected, stop selected. So again, just holding Control, this is going to be very similar in a lot of bots. You can select specific tasks and then go from there. But from all intents and purposes, right, start all, stop all. Now, if I want to edit every task, let's say that in mid-drop, SKU changes or something dropped that I didn't think, go here. Whatever you put in here, you don't have to fill everything out. Whatever category you fill out and save, it's going to change. So let's say that I want to do this and I want to do a different SKU. Changes all of the SKUs. Okay? I'll go into this more detailed another time, but if you successfully start the bot and it is picking up the product, this area right here is going to change from the SKU to the actual product name. So that is something to keep in mind. And finally in this category, I love that Wrath and some of the bots do this, right? You don't have to scroll through the whole thing to find your checkouts. You can see right here, right? If you get any declines, you'll see in the red. If you currently have anything in cart, you'll see that in the yellow. And if you successfully check out, you will see that in the green. So that is pretty much everything you need to know at this point on this section. And finally, we just finished back here, right? So this is going to give you a brief synopsis of how you've done this month, how you've done overall, and you can break it down again by, it'll have which sites you're spending on and all of your orders here. And you can keep this up here just to keep track of everything. This will also, right, if you need an update, like I said at the beginning, you could go there, get in the Discord, or you go down to that update button, no update available, you're good to go. So that's all I've got for you in here. Thank you for watching. I'm going to continue to do these bot tutorials on several bots that I use. I'm going to do one on Prism, Kodai, Dashi, Toru. So those will be coming up. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you all have any questions or anything like that, just leave them in the chat below as always. And other than that, I will see you all next time.